Thank you for joining the program today, The Fabric of Family. We try to address issues that are issues that you face in your family, issues we face in our family, and we want to do that from the perspective of what does God's Word say. And I have with me two very special guests indeed. I am the evangelist for the Highland Church of Christ in Dalton, Georgia, so you have one individual here on this program today from Georgia, but I have a guest from Alabama. His name is Cliff Goodwin. Cliff, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Barry, I am from Alabama. I was born and reared there most of my life. My wife is also from that state, and we are blessed with three beautiful children. I labor with the Ironton Church of Christ in Talladega. It is racing country. That's normally the way people think of Talladega. But we've been there about 10 or so years and are really enjoying the Lord's work in that community.
Well, we have Georgia and Alabama represented, and we certainly wouldn't want to leave out Tennessee.
Well, I hope not. I'm Paul Saint.
Yeah.
I work with the East Hill Church in Pulaski, Tennessee, Barry, and I'm honored to be here. My wife is precious bride of 42 years. We have 3 living children, 7 grandchildren. In fact, I often joke about the fact that I carry some pictures, so if you want to see the grandchildren after a while, I'll be glad to show them to you.
Let's see how our time goes.
All right.
Brethren, thank you for coming. And we're talking about some dangers that are facing the home. And I want to begin by talking about the internet. Internet, blessing or cursing? What would you say?
It's both. It can be both. The internet is our lives today. So many of us spend such a great time on the internet. I know for a fact that at East Hill we send class material and additional materials, teaching materials, halfway around the world in a matter of seconds. That has to be a blessing. We have correspondence courses. We have other ways that we actually teach the gospel of Christ by way of the internet. There are those sites that are available that have interactive questions and answers where people can go and study and learn the Bible. That has to be a great, great blessing. But a statistic that I ran across the other day, I don't know of its accuracy, but I would not question it probably. 260 million porn sites are presently existing accessible to the internet. That has to be a curse. When we can, as I was just the other day, I was looking for a store, computer store, that I had shopped at numerous times before, but I didn't remember their website, and I just typed in their name and .org, and on my computer screen, in a matter of a couple of seconds, was the most hideous, pornographic images my eyes have ever seen. It was nauseating. My wife happened to be in the office just a matter of a few seconds later. I said, honey, would you look at this? I said, just think of young boys or young girls that could have accessed that same site and what it might have done in evil to them. It is a dangerous situation if we're not careful and monitor it very closely.
Cliff, do you think that the internet is really that important of a subject when we're talking about the family?
Absolutely. I think the pervasiveness of it in our society today warrants that we have to deal with it. In fact, I think if it does not come up in some of our discussions regarding the family and regarding safeguarding the home, then I think we have really missed the boat. In so many ways, to echo some of the sentiments that Paul just shared with us, I believe the internet typifies life in general. And what I mean by that is in this present life, there is the potential for great good. You know, as we go living life day by day, we can engage ourselves in noble, righteous, and worthy activities that leave a lasting impression and a lasting legacy, perhaps even long after we have left the walks of this life. And at the same time, in this present world, there is also the potential for much evil. A person can live a life of hurting others. A person can leave a legacy for bad or for evil that perhaps takes families, if not entire communities, decades to recover. And I think we see that sometimes in the world picture, especially with some of the things that happen in other countries at the hands of ruthless men. Well, when you think of the choice that is before us as people, whether to do good or to engage in evil, that's essentially what we have with the internet. It depends on how we choose to use it. It can be a great blessing. It is so powerful, and that power is right, as it were, at your fingertips. And yet the choice is man's. The choice whether to use it for that good or to use it for evil lies really with the individual.
In Joshua 24, using the word that you've just spoken about, of choice or choose, Joshua 24:15, where the admonition by Joshua was to the people that he had assembled at that time, was choose ye this day whom you will serve. He pictured before them three choices: the gods of your fathers, the gods of the Amorites in whose land you dwell, or as for me and my house, we'll serve the Lord. And we're faced with similar choices today. We are told in James chapter 1 to keep ourselves unspotted from the world. We are admonished to live soberly, righteously, and godly. That's in Titus 2:11 and 12. But right before that, we are admonished to deny ungodliness and worldly lust. So we've got the choices, and to purge out the evil, to make sure that we partake of and involve ourselves in holiness and godliness. But it's sometimes hard.
The internet, I think about that, and I think about how that, when I was a child, the computers, as far as families were concerned, weren't really there. I mean, I suppose there were some who had access to those. But, today, there are computers and internet service, and perhaps most homes, I don't know statistically if that's correct, but I would assume, based upon what I know about the own world that I live in my circle. And, tragically though, these computers and internet services are in the home, and there are some parents who are ignorant, and I don't use that in a bad way, but I mean they're lacking the knowledge of really what's at the fingertips of their children. And I will say this, we might be surprised to know that some of our children are more inept at using the computer and the internet than some of us parents.
There's no doubt about that whatsoever. In fact, Barry, when you even speak about the computers, not just in our homes, but the laptops that they take many times, how many restaurants, how many public places have the Wi-Fi systems that are available to them, so literally they can be on the internet in fast food restaurants, in various places that they may go. There's little programs that can run that can find these particular services or Wi-Fi systems and allow the people to be on them. Then you involved also MySpace. I'm not as familiar with it maybe as others, but I do know a little bit about what I have read concerning those that are posting pictures and video clips and so forth on MySpace. Another area that needs to maybe be included in this is YouTube, the various film clips that you can go there. Some of it is pornographic in nature. A lot of it is innocent. It's just it's fun. I've been actually on and watched a few clips myself and just laughed endlessly almost at them. And yet it's so sad that Satan can take something that can be a blessing or that can be innocent within itself and turn it into something that is evil and tarnish it in such a way as to promote his wiles and entrapments.
And one of the great dangers I see with the internet as far as its misuse is concerned is, prior to the internet, if someone wanted to involve themselves in illicit sexual material, they had to physically go to perhaps a store. They had to go and literally walk over and pull a magazine off, walk up and pay for it. They had to literally go and rent a movie at a movie store. But the internet allows someone to participate in that type of activity all under the realm of secrecy.
Barry, you've mentioned two things in the last few minutes that really, when coupled together, they pose a severe problem for our families. The first thing that you mentioned a few moments ago was the fact that, for the most part, in so many families and in so many circles, children are very competent in computers nowadays. Very computer literate, we would say. Now, you take that fact and you couple it with the inherent privacy or the inherent secrecy that is in using an internet, such as one at home especially, and you can have some disastrous consequences. Many times children are on the World Wide Web. They are viewing sites that their parents probably do not have any idea they're viewing, and in many instances might not even be able to access themselves. And yet here are their children, and they're viewing these sites many times quite regularly, and it is poisoning their minds, warping their judgment regarding moral values. And our families today, in this modern time, in many senses, I believe, we face a crisis involving this very thing, and that is the internet and its abuse.
The godly parent, mother and father, who care about their children, do they not monitor who their friends are? Do they not monitor where they go? Well, surely they do. They do not want them hanging around or associating with those that are rebellious and maybe involved, already been in trouble maybe numerous times. They're going to try to encourage them to have good friends, quality friends. They're not going to encourage them or allow them or condone them going to places of ill repute or places that are known to be drug inhabited or other type of immorality or illegality. They're going to monitor those things. The same must be the parent concerning the computer is concerned. It is just as dangerous, maybe more so, because, Barry, as you mentioned a moment ago, the idea of it being so anonymously involved. No one knows. You can do what you want pretty much. But the parent, and Cliff, I think you hit right on the nail head when you was talking about how that maybe we need to become more learned about how to operate. For an example, sites where that computer has actually visited, most computers have what is known as a history. You can actually go there as a parent and just look at the history of the sites where they have been. I'm not talking about trying to invade their privacy, but helping a child, monitoring a child, and looking after the friends and the locations that they're going. Not physically, but they're going there nevertheless.
Well, I'm with you 100%, and you touched on something there near the end especially. Some parents seem to feel such a duty to protect their child's privacy. And sometimes that, when I hear that and when I see that taken to such extremes, it really astounds me. I understand that privacy is important. It's important to all of us as individuals. But a godly parent must remember that a child's privacy is certainly second to the child's welfare. And after all, we need to be reminded sometimes who are the parents and who are the children.
That's right.
And what role do I need to fill as a father? Do I need to be the guardian of my child's privacy, or do I need to try to be the guardian of my child's soul? And I think sometimes parents are really off base. Those who say, well, I cannot check what they're saying, or I cannot go through their drawers, or I cannot look in their room because of privacy. Well, I deny that. I think there are especially times and clues that may be given that warrant that. And that I think a parent who neglects doing so is negligent and is not fulfilling their parental duty.
In the beginning of the Holy Bible, we read, in the middle of the Holy Bible, we read, at the end of the Holy Bible, we read, the idea of train up a child in the way he should go. We are admonished in Deuteronomy to teach them the statutes and commandments when you're lying down, you're setting all area and aspects of life. Tell them the way of God. In Ephesians, in the latter part of the Holy Bible, we find that we're to bring them up in the nurture and the admonition of the Lord. How can we possibly do that unless we're involved in their lives, intertwined in their lives, know their lives, a part of their lives, and helping them, nudging them when they go a little bit too far to the right, or nudging them back when they go a little bit too far to the left. That is the training process. We wanted to teach someone how to hit a baseball. We wouldn't just say, okay, go get the bat, I'll pitch the ball, and you just hit it when you... But you put your arm around the child and you show him, this is how you hold that bat. And you anticipate the ball coming and you swing the bat, etc. You're training and teaching, same way spiritually.
What would either one of you say to perhaps a parent who's watching today who might respond along this line? Well, you know, boys are going to be boys, and boys are curious, or girls are curious, and so, you know, they're going to get on the internet and they're going to look at things, and perhaps magazines, and really that's just natural, and there's not anything to be concerned about.
I think, Barry, in many instances, that is a cop-out. I believe that is probably a parent, whether father or mother, who, for whatever reason, is not comfortable talking to their son or daughter about what might be termed the facts of life and about human sexuality. But the fact still remains that our children need to learn those things in the home. They need to learn those things from mama and daddy. They do not need to learn those things from a pornographic internet website that does nothing but degrade and skew the right perception of human sexuality. Parents have to step up to the plate, and they have to say, you know, my son or my daughter, obviously they're going to be curious. That's natural. They need to learn about these things, but they need to learn about these things from me and from my spouse, and not from someone out in the world.
Well, you know, sometimes we talk about things such as alcohol addiction, we talk about drug addiction, but we also need to realize there's such thing as sexual addiction. And so many times this phenomenon, this addiction, is something that begins early in life. It's fostered in young children who perhaps are curious, innocent in that sense, but they get involved in seeing things they shouldn't see, and engaged in practices or activities they should not be engaged in as a young person. And these behaviors intensify, become greater and greater, a greater dependency upon these things, and they have an effect upon that child even later in life as adults.
That's right.
Who struggle with an addiction to a practice that perhaps would not be there had they had the guidance or the proper instruction that they should have received as a child and had been shielded from some of the things that are out there in the world. I think that parents need to think about that and not say, well, it'll never happen to my child. You look at some of the individuals today who have been convicted of rape, child molestation, those who have been involved in things such as serial killings. You look at their history, and a lot of these people have some things in common, but one thing you see over and over again is a fascination with pornography, the internet, sexual promiscuity. And so parents do not need to take this subject lightly. We have about a minute left. Would any of you like to add any closing comments?
Maybe to come full circle and to maybe point out the fact, while we've really spoken negatively about pornographic and other immorality such as that, let's think in terms of the holiness and the sanctity of marriage and the husband-wife relationship, and even sexuality as created by God, a good, pure thing. Not something that is wrong or evil within itself, but good. But it's mangled by Satan.
Well, listen, I want to thank you for being with us today. We're not against the internet. In fact, we encourage you to go to www.gbntv.org, and you will be able to find more about the Gospel Broadcasting Network. I want to thank our guests for being with us today. Thank you as well. And until next time, I'm Barry Gilreath. Good day.
Speech on. Volume 100. Flash. Top. Music. Selected.